What's up, everybody? Joel's back with another reasoning sesh where I challenge the status quo of the wisdom of the world and the church by diving deep into the ancient scriptures, uncovering meanings glossed over by translations, and really cutting down to the real metaphysical applications of these ancient texts and applying it practically to a situation in our present day. And today I'm talking about the retribution of justice against the kingdom of darkness.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
But before I begin, I gotta say, if you like these videos, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe for more, because as we accelerate forward, we have to shed those old paradigms, and it involves unlearning what we learned to relearn the actual nature of what reality is, how to live our lives, and literally how to manifest the utopia that we've come here to experience. We haven't come here to experience anything less, and especially not any manipulation, control, or fear. Those are just the domains of the evildoers, and isn't it ironic that as they sow, so shall they reap? And that brings me to the passage that I want to share with you today, coming from Tehillim chapter 7, or the 7th Psalm, where David HaMelech says, Yahweh shall judge the people. Judge me, O Yahweh, according to my righteousness and according to my integrity that is in me. So not even David is immune for this cycle of justice to close, because it closes on everybody. And if your heart is actually righteous, you're going to reap those seeds. You're going to reap that kind of harvest. And check out what he says a little further on in the text. God, or Elohim, judges the righteous, and El is angry with the wicked every day. If he turn not, that's the wicked, he will whet his sword. He has bent his bow and made it ready. He has also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordained his arrows against the persecutors. Instrument of death? Arrows? Kind of parallels to what we're dealing with in our present day, huh? Behold, he travails with iniquity, and has conceived mischief, and brought forth falsehood. He made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. This is literally the retribution that comes to the wicked all the time. This is the eternal plan. This is it. As the next verse very aptly says, his mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealings shall come down upon his own pate. Which in Hebrew literally refers to the very top rounding of your head, or the crown of your head. All actions receive the justice that they've put out, even if it takes a long time. David finishes this Tehillah by saying, I will praise Yahweh according to his righteousness, or justice, and will sing praise to the name of Yahweh Most High. And that name just represents the authority, that system of government that is absolute, and that power or authority that actually backs that whole principle up. And speaking of the world system that we're dealing with today, we're actually talking about Babylon. Because the empire never died. It just morphed and got assimilated to the kingdoms that were taking it over. But it still exists today in government, in law, in religion. This is literally Babylon the Great. And it reminds me of a passage in the oracles of Irmiyah where he actually prophesies against Babylon. And he says, a sword is upon the Chaldeans, says Yahweh, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. And that sword also represents the cutting to the chase, the effectual establishment of that justice. He goes on to say, a sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. So not only is it upon their kingdom, but it's upon all the liars. We're talking about their prophets, the people that are spewing the narrative, aka the Midianites. And all the mighty men, so all these people that are pushing this agenda forward, shall be dismayed. A sword is upon their horses, and upon their chariots, and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her. So not only their vehicles, but all the people that have bought into their narrative. And it says, they shall become as women. Now, of course, this is speaking about their valiant men. And back in the day, if you were to go up to any warrior and use this slur against them, it was like the greatest insult. Now, that's not to say there haven't been some really, really strong mama bears throughout history fighting for their own justice. But in general, this was literally used as a derogatory slur against the men of war. And it goes on to say, a sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. Now, we're talking about the vaults of the Vatican here, because Vatican is Mystery Babylon continuing in our present day. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. It's interesting that when Cyrus actually invaded Babylon, he diverted the Euphrates River and actually entered in through the dried riverbeds. And even in our present day, we're draining that swamp. For it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols. So they've built up all these false securities for themselves to make themselves feel good. But like the oracles of Isaiah say, it says their land is also full of idols. They worship the work of their own hands, that which their own fingers have made. So they're not getting their security from source, the cause of all this physical nature, which ironically is the cause of their own thought process. But they're creating their fiction, and they're standing as if that fiction is going to save them. Well, divine justice has a huge wake-up call coming for them, and we're going through a wake-up call. A lot of us have already wakened up, and we can see the manipulation. We see through the lies. We see the control for what it is. And when we leave it up to source to actually close that cycle of justice will close perfectly without our egos getting in the way and trying to make things close and trying to make ends meet. When source closes the circle, source closes the circle. Like he says, vengeance is mine. And vengeance is absolute retribution. And it differs from revenge, because when you revenge someone, you're actually sowing a seed of your own harvest. Sure, your actions might be part of their harvest, but you've just sown seeds to receive your own harvest now. But if you leave it to source, that harvest will come to them, whether they like it or not. And all you have to do is just wait on Yahweh. The battle is Yahweh's, and the battle has already been won. So stay optimistic and know that divine justice is absolute. I love you guys. I'll check you in another reasoning sesh. Joel signing out once again. Agape. Salaam. Namaste. Shalom. Those are just the domains of the evildoers, and those are just the